Following the assassination of Archduke Francis of Austria-Hungary, war broke out between the Allied powers, Great Britain, France, Russia, Japan, and Italy against the Central Powers, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Turkey, and Bulgaria. President Woodrow Wilson wanted to stay neutral during the war. However, because of economical, cultural, and political ties with Great Britain, it was hard for the U.S. to stay out of the war. Another pressing issue was Germany's unrestricted submarine warfare. In May of 1915, Germany sunk the British ocean liner Lusitania, which killed 129 Americans. In the election of 1916, Wilson hoped to run a peace campaign with the slogan, "He kept us out of war." He won the election, but later in 1917, the U.S. began loaning money to the Allies. Later that month, Germany resumed unrestricted submarine warfare, which left Wilson to cut off diplomatic relations with Berlin. Finally, in February 1917, a telegram sent by Arthur Zimmermann of Germany was intercepted by Great Britain. The telegram called for Mexico to go to war against the U.S. After that, a declaration of war was approved by Congress, and they entered the war on the side of the Allies. After U.S. mobilization, Germany surrendered in 1918 because of the threat of full U.S. mobilization. The Treaty of Versailles was signed in 1919, which finally ended the war. The rise of European dictators Adolf Hitler, Benito Mussolini, Francisco Franco, and Joseph Stalin led to unstable conditions in Europe. The U.S. adopted a foreign policy of isolationism. President FDR passed the Neutrality Acts of 1935, 36, and 37 in an attempt to keep the U.S. neutral. Despite not being involved in the war, the U.S. passed the first peacetime draft in 1940. Then on December 7, 1941, Pearl Harbor was attacked by Japan. FDR asked for a declaration of war against Japan. Then on December 11, 1914, Germany declared war against the U.S. The two sides were the Axis powers, Nazi Germany, Italy, and Japan, and the Allies, Great Britain, France, U.S., Soviet Union, and China. After lengthy fighting, the war ended after Germany surrendered on May 7, 1945, and Japan surrendered after the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings. After Churchill's Iron Curtain speech, relationships between the Soviet Union and the U.S. were strained. The Truman Doctrine promised to help any country facing the threat of communism. Then, the splitting of Germany led to the Berlin blockade, which then led to the Berlin airlift. Then, on March 5, 1953, Stalin died and Khrushchev took over. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization was formed. After the Soviet Union got the atomic bomb, the U.S. began a nuclear stockpile. The construction of Berlin Wall was the first physical sign of the war. Finally, in 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis escalated tensions between the two superpowers.